Okay. We're unmuted.
We're unmuted. We're ready? All right. Normally, everybody, I would ask us all to rise for the pledge and call the meeting to order. But before I do that this evening, I would like for us to take a moment of silence in recognition of Mr. Otero, Coach Otero, that we tragically lost last week. And if we could take a moment of silence for him right now, please. Thank you. And so the audience and people here with us tonight know next week we are going to spend some time during our meeting recognizing his impact on the district and our students. But tonight, because our agenda was already completed, we just wanted to take a moment of recognition for a man who has been was in the district for 37 years. So we'll have more time next week to honor him. Now, if you would all please rise, I will call the meeting to order at 5:44 p.m. and the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Thank you. And Mrs. Sandoval, roll call, please.
Dr. Garashambo? Ms. Hunt Bailey? Mr. Jaramillo?
Here.
Mr. Ortiz?
Here.
Mrs. Lee?
Present. We do indeed have a quorum. Adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, and if so, what?
Board members, I would like to ask if we could postpone item 5B. Mrs. Griego, we sent her to a training last week and she was going to prepare a presentation with data and she hasn't had time to get that together yet. And so I'd like to postpone it till our next board meeting.
5B under presentations. Anything else?
Madam President, I'd like to postpone the RFP, Board Legal Services items in D, E, and B, 7B. 5,
So 5,
5E.
5E.
See, I'm not used to it.
Understood, understood.
Action item 7B. Postpone to the
And 8, it's actually 8. Is it 8?
6, 7,
7.
8.
6, 7, 8. No, it is 7. I think we skipped 6.
Oh, we might have skipped 6.
What?
Perfect,
We know which one.
perfect, perfect. 7B. Excellent, thank you. Anything else? All right, Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation for approval of the agenda as amended?
I recommend that we approve the agenda as amended.
Wonderful. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended, postponing items 5B under presentations, 5E under presentations, and 7B as an action item?
I move that we amend the agenda as stated.
And is there a second, please?
Second.
It has been moved, you're good. It has been moved by Dr. Archambault and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to approve the agenda as amended, postponing items 5B, 5E, and 7B. Is there any further discussion?
Excuse me, I'm here. Could you go over those again? I didn't know what was being, I just barely got on. So
Yes, yes, ma'am.
just go over those items that are suspended.
Yes, ma'am. So, Mr. Widener suggested that we postpone item 5B under presentations as Mrs. Griego was traveling for the district and was unable to get that presentation completed to her liking. So she's asked that we be able to postpone that until the next board meeting next week. Dr. Archambault has requested that we postpone items 5E, the fielding of the RFP information, and 7B, the action item related to that presentation, until next week.
Okay,
That help?
yeah, I don't have the agenda. I didn't get the agenda. I requested the agenda and I didn't get it sent to me. So I am sitting here in the totally blind. I don't know what the agenda looks like, but just go on.
All right, is there any further discussion, board members? All right, Mrs. Sandoval, roll call, please.
Dr. Guy Archambault,
Yes.
Ms. Hunt Daly,
Yes,
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. Ms. Lorraine, would you try an email right now? Thank you so much. At this point, we will move on to adoption of the minutes for October 15th, 2024. Are there any amendments to the minutes? If so, what? Superintendent Weiner, is there a recommendation of approval of the minutes as presented?
I recommend that we approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you. It has been, pardon me. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I'll move to approve the minutes of October 15th.
Thank you. And a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt Daly. It has been moved by Mr. Ortiz and seconded by Ms. Hunt Daly to approve the minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Dr. Archambault,
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Yes,
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. Mrs. Sandoval, are there any citizens to address the board?
No, ma'am, no citizens to address the board.
Thank you. Mr. Widener, presentations, sir.
All right, that takes us right into our presentations. Item 5A. As you know, this is the meeting of the month, the first meeting of the month where we have a school site come and present their dash information. We are very fortunate tonight to have Milan Elementary School here. And please help me in welcoming Mrs. Danielle Gaines. Milan Elementary School here.
Superintendent Widener and board. So like I was saying, Mr. Gutierrez couldn't be here tonight. He had another meeting, so you all have me. But I'm going to briefly go over our dash plan. So our focus was on school leadership and systems. We are really focusing on building a structure of using our leaders within our school. Currently, we have 2 teachers that have their admin degrees, and so we are relying on them to help us in leadership roles. And we also have another teacher who is currently going for her admin degree. We're bringing in new systems to help with our goal. So our goal and our dash plan is a combined ELA and math goal. We would like to see 15 to 17% increase school-wide by the end of the year. So what that looks like by classes, about 5 to 7 students increase to proficient. So ways that we are doing this is by holding effective PLCs. We are going over analyzing our data, have grade level alignment, which we've really seen by having our curriculum school-wide and everyone using the same curriculum. We're offering professional development within our PLCs. So we've had Ms. Griego come, we've gone over the special ed aspects, and we're really going over our MLSS and identifying those students and the targeting, what we need. 2 of the systems that we have implemented this year is Bullseye and eHall Pass. So eHall Pass helps with classroom management. It eliminates hallway traffic, and we have the students in the classroom, and we're able, so what it is if the student needs to go anywhere within the school, we create a pass for them. Electronic pass, all of us are able to see the student is supposed to be going to the nurse. If we see them somewhere else, then we're like, turn around, go to the nurse, or go back to class. And it's also helping us with parents are like, my kid said this, it's a protection for us also of being able to track where our students are within the school. Our Bullseye is a classroom walkthrough system that we are using. One thing that I really liked is it holds the admin accountable, and it keeps us in the classroom to help support our teachers. So we, Mr. Kateris and I are able to see what classrooms we've been in, the walkthroughs we've done, what we've worked on with the teacher, and how we're supporting them. All of our teachers have created a SMART goal within that platform, and so we're able to see what their goal is and how do we support them to reach their goal. So I know my goal was to be in 5 classrooms a week and to hold 2 face-to-face. So that is a meeting that I'll have with the teacher. And so with our veteran teachers, I ask them, what did you do well? Teach me what you did well, and we work on it like that. So that's been a great feedback tool for our teachers for support. Another big thing that we're doing this year is we're really trying to build a culture. And that isn't just within our building, but it's with the community. So things that we're doing with that is with our teachers for our professional development days, we asked them, what do you guys need? What do you want? And a lot of them said, we need team building, we need to come together. So we've had some SEL PDs. We're trying to do monthly staff appreciation. We're really starting to invite the community into the school. So for you, most of you saw we had veterans at the school yesterday, and we wanted to build that with them. And then also we have our house system, which has created a friendly competition, but it's also created vertical alignment. So we have a lot of our older classes will team up with a younger class of the same house and work together. And it's been really great to see that. And that's all that I have for you all. Do you have any questions?
Board members, questions for Mrs. Gaines?
Yes, I do that. I'm interested in this hallway pass. Is your school the only one that's using it, or can we, does the whole district use it? I know we had something similar to that when I was at West Mesa, and it did track the kids to make sure, and also um, didn't allow them to, if they did a pass in the first period, then they had to wait till third period to do another pass. So it kind of kept the passes to a limit. And then if they were more than 5 minutes, then a red flag would go up and it would beep in the detention office, and then they would go looking for the student. Is that
Yes.
something similar that you're using?
Yes, ma'am. So I know that Synergy offers the same thing also. Mr. Sanchez at Laguna had showed us how he has created the same process over there, and so it is available district-wide.
And how do you create the passes on the computer? Do they, the way we used it, the student had to use their phone to do the pass, and then it would show up on my laptop, and then the clock would start as soon as they turned it on. Then they only had so many minutes to go to the bathroom or nurse's office, a little bit longer, something like that.
So we have, some teachers will have it up on their smart board, some have it if there's an extra Chromebook, they have the system up there. Our older students, we are trying to get them where they create their own passes, so if they have their Chromebooks, they need to be responsible enough to create a pass and do that. Our younger students, the teachers will create the pass for them.
Excellent. Mr. Wider, do the other schools use it with Fidelity?
Right now, I think we have about 3 of our sites that are using it daily. And so we have others that are slower to adopt, but Mr. Sanchez presented at one of our principal meetings in September. And it is pretty effective. It's a pretty great tool. And it's really nice about knowing where your kids are.
Yes, I see the advantage of that. Did the teachers and staff receive training in it?
We, I'm sorry. For our school, we did a quick run through, and we're still in a learning process, I would say. We took from Mr. Sanchez, he had told his staff the first year he implemented it, take your time, get to know it. Next year, we are doing this full blown, so we're kind of doing a similar thing, but the system is very easy to use. Like I said, we have our elementary students making their own passes and they know what the process is of doing that, and then making sure that they end their pass. And
And so
it's really cut down on abusing passes and that.
So do they use their phone, or they have to have a Chromebook to do that?
We use either a Chromebook or a smart board.
Oh, I see. Okay, so because I wondered that might increase the use of cell phones, which are not allowed especially in the high school areas. So,
No, and if the student, they can use their own Chromebook, but most of the teachers have set up an area with an extra Chromebook to use.
that's an excellent idea. Mr. Wider, maybe we can find out from the other schools how well they're using it, and if it's doing what it's designed to do, is to track the students and cut down on the number of passes that they're utilizing, which of course cuts down on the time outside the classroom, because they need to be inside the classroom learning. So thank you. I wondered about that, and I really appreciate the fact that you're using it with Fidelity at your school. And maybe toward the end of school, you can give us another report on like the number of passes given out and stuff like that, so that we can see what the trend is with our students. This would also be helpful at the high school level, because I think that's where a lot of the abuse is, with students going somewhere and then taking 5, 10, 15 minutes to get there and get back. So thank you. I really appreciate your presentation.
Of course, thank you.
And we found at with the upper grades, with the high school level, Laguna ordered tablets, so their teachers each have a classroom tablet where the kids will go up and generate the pass. And so that's how we're doing it at Laguna, but
Maybe
We-
we can have a report or just some kind of maybe written report from how many schools are using it and what, what kind of trend it's showing and stuff like that. I appreciate that. One more question, I'm sorry. I didn't get your name.
Danielle Gaines.
Okay, Ms. Gaines, you talked about improving, going toward proficiency at it's 5%, 15% increase. I don't,
So it's 15 to 17%
Okay.
increase school-wide. And so when we broke down the numbers, that showed that we would have 5 to 7 students increase to proficient.
and so are you giving them assessments, weekly, bi-weekly assessments to, I guess, to gauge that improvement?
Yes, ma'am. So each of our teachers, a lot of them do exit tickets at the end of the week. We're trying to encourage them to maybe do them towards the beginning of the week. So then we use that week to reteach and see what we need to do. We're also doing our STAR testing. That is monthly. And then we have our IMESA scores that we do. We'll get ready to do one here in December.
And this method, Mr. Widener, they're using it at the high school levels as well?
Yes, ma'am. We are, Dr. Martin very much worked with our instructional coaches and our principals to really find the best kind of short cycle assessment that we could. We did find that the STAR assessment aligned well with our IMASA. It aligns with the SAT. And so we are using that district-wide in every school. And we are monthly testing the STAR testing.
That would be great too. I know that's always been the problem area I see when we use charts to show gains, but it's gains that are not even, as a teacher, I can't call them gains because they're not proficient. Now I can see once they're nearing proficiency and then they're making gains, then I can see that kind of data being useful. But if we're way below proficiency, the gains don't seem to be as pertinent as we would hope they would be. But I like her idea that they're getting the starting point will be close to the proficiency levels, so that those are then when we see gains, they're actually really good gains. So thank you. Your presentation was very informative.
Thank you.
Board members, anything further for Mrs. Gaines? Mrs. Gaines, thank you very much. It was an
Thank you.
excellent
I
presentation.
invite you all
Appreciate you.
to come see all of it in action.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Mr. Widener.
All right, our next presentation, we are moving to item C there on our list.
Sir.
I have asked Dr. Martin to come and kind of give a short synopsis, point of clarification for everybody on what MLSS is. Through the years, the last several years, MLSS has become a very pertinent plan for interventions in schools. As you guys know that have been on the board for a while, we used to do response to interventions. We used to do 3-tiered interventions, and now we have gone to the MLSS system. And so I've asked Dr. Martin to come and talk about what that is.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Madam President, Mr. Governor, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, colleagues and guests.
right.
First off,
Will you turn the camera on to Dr. Martin?
we've been doing interventions for the longest time, but lately it was NMPD put more focus on it and actually made wanted all districts to actually focus on MLSS first because it's one of their response to the Martinez-Yazzie lawsuit and all that. They want all students' needs to be addressed. And so this short presentation will just show you an overview of what MLSS is. And last school year, we've actually invited an NMPD individual to give MLSS trainings during both of our PD days to our teachers in an effort to help them understand what the MLSS process is and what it's all about. On November 18th and 19th, we'll have school site teams go to Isleta for the NMPD school site dash teams to go to Isleta to actually be trained by NMPD on how to use MLSS assessments to guide their dash plans. And on December 18th, during one of our principals meeting, that same individual that came in last year to train our teachers on MLSS will be coming to our principals meeting to clarify any questions or misconceptions they have about the process and anything related to that. So let me go ahead and go through this presentation. What is MLSS? It stands for Multi-Layer Systems of Support. And it's a framework, comprehensive framework for academic and behavioral support. Excuse me if I read through this. Aim to meet the diversities of all students. We want to be able to meet every student's needs, utilize data-driven decision-making and evidence-based practices. Those evidence-based practices are not included in this particular presentation, but they are in your packets. Just in case you have a question on what those evidence-based practices are, there are samples in your packets. And focuses on early intervention and prevention. Key concepts of MLSS. It's a multi-layered support system. This is supposed to be layers. Tiers are what they used in the previous model. So layer one is universal supports for all students. I believe the one with layers are the ones in your packets. Layer two is targeted support for some students. So pretty much layer one is for all students in the class, and then if you put them in small groups, that will be layer two, small groups to support some students, and layer three would be individualized or more intensive support for a few students or individual students. Database decision making, regular assessments and progress monitoring, and the use of data to inform instructional decisions. And then evidence-based practices, like I mentioned, which are included in your packets. They are implementation of research supported strategies. So each layer has research-based strategies that can be used for those particular layers. And the last bullet there says continuous evaluation of effectiveness. Of course, whatever intervention we use with students, we have to evaluate the effectiveness of, because if they're not effective, then that prompts the teacher to use other methods or other intervention strategies. Benefits for our students. Early identification of learning and behavioral needs, timely and targeted interventions, improved academic outcomes for all students, reduced referrals to special education, increased student engagement and motivation, development of social emotional skills, personalized learning experiences, and equitable access to high quality education. Personalized learning experiences because we adapt to the students' learning needs pretty much. And finally, the last slide for this presentation. In conclusion, MLSS in action, MLSS is a proactive approach to support all students. That's the objective. Emphasizes collaboration, data-driven decisions, and evidence-based practices, leads to improved student outcomes and a more inclusive learning environment, requires ongoing commitment and continuous improvement, empowers educators to meet diverse student needs effectively. And that's the overview of MLSS.
Thank you. Board members, are there any questions for Dr. Martin?
Mr. Weiner. We have 3,100 kids?
3,100 right now.
About how many of them are in level 1, how many are in level 2, how many are in level 3? Gotcha. Just kidding. What I'm saying is that it's mine, by saying it that way, I'm kind of inferring that all students have to be in one of the 3. Am I correct?
Yes.
So, in our school district, with the challenges that we have academically, that this is one of the most critical, non-negotiable things that the state says, that we say must be the driver of our decisions as to what we're going to do with the kids. So, ladies, my understanding that level 1 is what we would consider to be the general educational program for all kids. So when all kids go into the classroom, they're all going to get that.
Yes, sir. They all start at layer 1. And then as they need more intensive support and help and interventions, then they move to level 2. And then it's the kids that need the most intensive support and help that are in level 3. So it's 3,100 kids, then it goes down, and and so level 3 is a smaller group that gets lots of focus. And then if the support is still not enough, then we look at the SAT process, and we look at, continuing what can best support that student and their needs.
When do we make those decisions to move them from 1 to 2 to 3?
That comes from conversations in our PLCs, correct, Dr. Martin?
Yes, and so through student evaluations, assessments, and all that, so if a teacher from data sees that a student is still struggling with a concept or mastery of standards, or whatever strategies were used in layer 1 didn't actually work with a smaller group of students, then that's the time, that's what will prompt the teacher to put them in layer 2. Make small groups and try to address those students' needs in a smaller group. And if interventions in layer 2, through the use of data and assessment, the teacher still feels that more intensive interventions are necessary, and that's the time that's what prompts the teacher to do individualized or more intensive interventions with those students. So it's pretty much using assessment, data, and observations to make those decisions, and collaborations with other teachers and PLC groups and whoever is involved with that student's learning, that prompts them to make those decisions, to move them through those layers of learning.
kind of like when Mrs. Gaines was talking about the exit tickets and that they're utilizing that data and then they're coming back, they know they have to reteach, they know they have to kind of strategize how to best get those students to understand those standards. And so I think if you have kids that are continually not successful on their exit tickets, then you've got to provide a different way to provide instruction.
Well, and Mr. Widener, does this, and Dr. Martin, does this fall in line with what we've had a couple of presentations on, where we had the red, yellow, and the green?
Yes.
And knowing that the school sites have their their rooms or, their boards or whatever, where literally every student in the school is, being carefully watched as far as how their performance goes but then the students also have involvement in owning their educational process. You okay, sir?
Yeah.
Should we get you a water?
We'll grab one.
Okay.
Correct. So, and with us now doing the short cycle assessment every month, we have data, and so we can track, which student and what progress they're making, and it's been Dr. Martin the last year and a half that has really led our instructional coaches in having those data conversations. And we still need to grow in how to interpret the data and dig into the data and but that's all part of the MLSS process.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Targeted interventions. I'm trying to think of how this is operational by each teacher, by each PLC, by each principal, and then by the district. How do you operationalize it so that it becomes actually something that we track every morning? If the state says that this is absolutely important, that this is what we're going to do, then we must have a way to hold ourselves accountable to ensure that we are performing the so-called diagnosis of the child performance over time. And determine if they are meeting, would you say, benchmarks? And then if they're not, that the teachers and the school can document whether or not this child is going to be considered for additional support in level 2. Is there a document, any record keeping that shows us when a child is moved from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, so that at any point in time, the central office can identify or can ask the question, and the students are level 1, and the students are level 2 and 3. Can you do that?
There are, Madam President, Dr. Archambault, members of the board, there are documentations currently in place in Synergy. And there are paper documentations that teachers keep on interventions they use with their students as well. I'm not claiming we're perfect right now in record keeping in Synergy, nor are we perfect in our MLSS processes, and that's the reason why we're wanting more professional development to clarify what NMPD expects of us in implementing this particular process. We'll get better, and we intend on getting better in implementing the MLSS process. But there are our teachers are keeping documentation on interventions they're using with their students and data that they use in deciding which layer they place their students. So I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, well, what I think the community expects us to do is to ensure that we have strong systems of management of our decisions with respect to their kids. And when I say management, that means basically, do we know what is it that we're doing with our students, particularly when a significant proportion of our students are at risk. And that has to do with those students who, as in the teens, identified as being Native American, indigenous students with disabilities and disadvantaged. So if a tribe asks, do you know our scores for our kids, and you tell them, and then they ask you, if MLS is so important, then what is it that we're doing for kids with respect to MLS? Are we making timely decisions to decide if they need targeted interventions? And then those who are still not successful, how do we transit them to level 3, which is then getting into genders. Domain, it ultimately, in some fashion, we've got to figure out a way in which there's some connectivity between, ultimately, we can't, then how does the referral process for special ed, which is a whole different structure. But this one basically is for all the kids, and all of them are being considered for that. So I'm just saying that that the community, we feel, I remember last year, the NMSBA, one of the presentations, I think by Walsh was, one of them was on the NLSS.
Yes.
And so I inferred from that if they're gonna present to the boards in New Mexico, something in NLSS, then I guess we need to know that it's in the law and that it's important. And so I guess the reason I'm kind of speaking a little bit longer on this is because it's an official structure of decision-making for all of our kids that enables us to organize what we do from in the 3 levels. And that we need to be able to understand how to do that. I think teachers tend to know when students having difficulty and what additional resources they need, or what other strategies they need. And so and if they don't, they seek to get further training in these areas. I see on level 1, there's differentiated cooperative learning. How many of our schools use cooperative learning strategies in the classroom? I don't know. And formative assessment techniques, it appears that we do those. Positive behavior support systems, we probably have to have an explanation of how that's done. That's part of the SCL process. Yes, sir. And then the most important one is the clear learning objectives and success criteria. That's basically saying, are we focused with whatever the word is, so we're all focused on teaching the standards that the kids are supposed to know at grade level. And are they making progress? And so along with that, the state has probably a lot of resources or guidance on this.
Yes, sir.
And how long has this been in effect?
It's been about 4 years.
3 to 4 years, I'm gonna say, probably about 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's funny, cause I remember, I was at GHS then, and I remember our special education coordinator telling me at the time, you know, you're really gonna have to learn this. You're gonna, you know, you have 800 kids. And I thought, well, it's RTI. I know that. I know interventions but it is much more intensive for every kid. So when you talk about 3,100 students in the district, every kid starts at layer
Layer one.
one. They start at layer one. And it's supposed to kind of, you know, really separate what the kids need on an individual basis. And so it's neat to see how the data conversations are going and the assessment conversations and
Miss
and
Daly,
that's, I told Dr. Martin, I said, I really would like to go and learn with you
about it.
more, you know, 4 years in, 3 years in.
Miss Daly, I see that you've had your hand up. You've got to unmute, ma'am.
Okay, it was hard to hear all of Dr. Guy's comments and remarks, but I'm assuming that report from Dr. Martin that um, the instructional coaches are part of this process so that they could share in I guess the discussion on improvement for every student, because I know some classes are large and we don't want to burn out our teachers trying to, you know, keep track of every every gain or no gain. And so as well as the special ed, I'm pretty sure that we have special ed students in almost every class, and it would be advantageous for those with large special ed students if occasionally, you know, special ed teacher could come in and sit and assess whether those students that are uh, with IEPs and are getting the instructional value of this process. I just like the previous Ms. Gaines talked about exit tickets and bell ringers, and those are well proven assessment tools. But when you have 30 to 40 students trying to keep track of it, does get horrendous. And like I said, I'm glad the instructional coaches are keyed in on the progress that these students are making. But I kind of share Dr. Guy's concern about whether or not every student is getting the their needs met, because it is, especially with I think the elementary have large classes, and some middle school are large numbers. So, but I appreciate Dr. Martin, the things that you're doing with this MLSS, and I just think that, you know, we, like they told us to use it with fidelity so that these students are actually being tracked so that they're getting their specific needs met, because every student has different needs, and we just want to make sure that those are well discussed with the teacher and the instructional coaches so that they can identify those areas in the MLSS system that might need a little bit more attention. But I'm hoping that this brings our students closer to proficiency where I can recognize actual gains to be actual gains. And that would be my goal as a teacher. And I do that daily with my own students, assessing their reading skills, their writing skills, and it is a large task that we give our teachers to keep track on all of these. But I'd like to see more data charts. I know you've done that in the past, Dr. Martin, but if you could keep keep that up so that we can actually see from the very beginning when it first started to where they are now, because we're almost halfway through the school year, And with the break coming up, we also know that during the break, a long break like Christmas, they do tend to lose some of the learning that they got during the first part of the year. So uh, I guess that would be I don't know if that is along with what Dr. Guy was talking about, but I look at your MLSS tasks and stuff, and I think that's uh, it's something we need, and I would hope that Ms. Griego, that you could, use your special ed teachers to assist with those classrooms that have large number of special ed students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Daly. Board members, is there anything else regarding MLSS that you would like to ask?
I just want to agree with Dr. Guy, I'm the person that like said, where are all the layers at, are we the majority of 3 or the majority of our 3,000 students are 1, I would like to know that.
Well, we should.
Where are we in the
by the end of
layers?
year, we'll have a better idea.
Right.
Cause we're
You know,
still
like,
getting a sense.
Out of our 3,000 kids, like he said, I'd like to see where are we in the layers of our 3,000 kids.
Go ahead, sir.
We can give that data based off what's recorded in Synergy, because we can pull that up and probably ask the help of our instructional coaches to find out those which are not in Synergy and give a report of that. Yeah, I would just, I'd like to point out though, as part of this particular slide right here, the new process that the PED is wanting us to use is for us to help us reduce referrals to special education. Unlike RTL or RTI before that, when tier 3 is automatically special education, layer 3 is not. It's more intensive intervention for our kids. Actually, Jennifer and my colleagues help with that as well. We want to make sure our teachers learn more about MLSS, because we don't want them to be referring students to special ed right away. We want them to exhaust every effort for them to be able to help our kids.
It could be a language barrier.
Yeah, so we don't want them to be referring anybody automatically based, if they have not done their part in trying to help the student be where they are. So, and Jennifer asks those documentations every time she gets referrals. So they have to document what they did, because they will not even entertain them if they've not done their part. So, yeah, just want to clarify that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, are we ready to move on?
Dr. Martin, you're up again. You get to tell us about iReady. iReady is a program that we currently utilize, and Dr. Martin will talk about why it's important and why we need to have an action item here in a little bit.
I'm gonna interrupt for 1 second. Oh, Ms. Daly, you got your hand down. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that if you needed attention again, it would freshen. So thank you for taking that down. Go ahead, sir. Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, man. Again, Madam President, members of the board, Mr. Superintendent, colleagues, guests. Here's a short presentation regarding iReady. iReady is included in our Title I application. And the reason mainly the reason why we have iReady is because it ties up with our math adoption. So when we did math adoption, we adopted Ready Math for our elementary schools. And iReady is a platform that our elementary schools used. That's related to that. So iReady and Ready Math, Ready Reading, because we also adapted that, are designed to complement each other in supporting student learning. So iReady, this is the online program that teachers use to diagnose a student learning from their books. So the Ready Math and Ready Reading books that were adopted for our students. So it's adaptive, meaning it's just it adjusts to students' responses like Freckle. The difference between iReady and Freckle, we use STAR testing for our interim assessments and as a diagnostic tool. And Freckle is an adaptive, it's an adaptive program. So after they take that assessment, they go into Freckle, and whatever the result of their assessment is, Freckle adjusts to that. That's what iReady does as well. So our teachers use their curriculum, their textbooks, their materials to teach their math and reading or ELA in the classroom. They use iReady to diagnose that the students' learning, and that program in turn adapts to the results of the diagnostic and gives intervention on things that the students might not have mastered that the teachers have taught. So it's a tool that our teachers use for intervention pretty much. Ready Math and Ready Reading, these are comprehensive standards aligned instructional programs. Those are the textbooks that were adopted by our schools. They offer rigorous content and practice opportunities, including lessons and activities designed to build deep understanding and of mathematical and reading concepts. And finally, I think this is the last slide. The relationship between them is that iReady's diagnostic assessment help identify students' needs. So and in turn becomes the intervention tool, part of, not solely the intervention tool that teachers can use to help students master those standards that they need more help. Together, they create a cohesive learning system that supports both personalized and classroom learners. I'm ready for any questions.
What's the relationship between DSP and standards instruction?
Dr. Shimbo, the DLP is the main tool of the teacher for the main. If I were a teacher, it's my most important document because it tells me which standards I have to teach my students for them to be at grade level. What standards they need to master. The whatever we adopt, whatever materials we adopt are our resources that we use to be able to teach those standards to our students. And so this Ready Math and iReady are all resources that our teachers use to be able to impart whatever is required of them by our DLPs.
How frequent are these administered?
The iReady assessments. We don't mandate iReady assessments to our teachers. They pretty much schedule it for their classes, for them to find out their students' progress. So it's a support tool for the teacher to be able to drive their instruction. You know what I mean? They need data for them to be able to drive instruction. They do not need to wait for mandated district assessments. For me, if I were a teacher, I'll give quizzes every time I think it's, I believe necessary, if I want to know where my students are at, because that will prompt me whether I need to reteach or if I need to, if I can go on. So this is pretty much one tool that they can use for that. And not have to wait for when STAR assessments are scheduled or when IMAS assessments are scheduled. It's a tool ready for them to use at any time.
Diagnostic or assessment?
This is formative, pretty much formative assessments. And yes,
So you diagnose where they're at.
yes, sir.
This is what they have not learned. And it does it.
Right.
Descriptive.
It's adaptive. So
Explain adaptive. I'm trying to understand what adaptive means.
A teacher schedules an assessment based on particular standards that they've taught in class. And then they let their students take that particular assessment related to those standards. And then the platform automatically creates a pathway pretty much an online lesson with embedded assessments that students can go over and help them master a particular standard that the assessment showed that they've not mastered it. So it adapts to whatever ability each student showed depending on the results of their assessment.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, sir.
Miss Daly, I see you have your hand up again, ma'am. Don't forget to unmute.
Okay, Dr. Martin did answer some of the questions I had, but I'm wondering how cohesive does iReady Math and iReady Reading work with the MLS instruction that you just went over? Again, I worry about the teachers having so much to do, even though basically that's their job, but you can get overwhelmed when you have all these programs that you're trying to use in your program and you have a large number of kids. But how cohesive do they work well together, the Ready Math and the Ready Reading, along with the MLSS standards you just talked about?
Okay.
Can you hear Miss Daly?
Yes, I can hear,
Go
but
ahead.
Yeah, so I do know that, MLSS requires us to address every student's need. There are certain layers. I know iReady is one tool that helps our teachers address or find those needs actually through the formative or the diagnostic assessments that are available there. First off, it lets teachers know what particular standards each of those students need, and it helps them address some of those needs. And it also gives the students an opportunity. If I were a teacher, I cannot address every student's need at the same time. While those students are waiting, while students are waiting for me to sit down with them, to give more intensive intervention on some of the things they need help on. The other students can go ahead and be on iReady and help them, you know what I mean, understand some of those standards they need help on. So it gives students intervention, online intervention, while the teacher is moving across the room, helping each of those students out with their individual needs. So I know that's one way our teachers are using this program. And it's not something that they use all the time, because we do stress that teachers teaching is better than students being kept online most of the time. It's just a tool that they use to diagnose student weaknesses and help them help them master individual standards difficulties that they have.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Do the instructional coaches also assist with this, with the iReady and iMath, for iMath and iReading?
They do. They are our I must say, school site masters of a bunch of our programs. And when they visit their teachers, they pretty much pretty much monitor the tools they use and supports them in whatever needs they have in trying to support their kids. And like I said, they help out in many ways. They even help out our STCs when their assistance is necessary. Some of them are our STCs, by the way, because they're veteran teachers. They know data. They've used all these tools for a while, and so they're our expert. They're our boots on the ground, are experts at the sites, and they do report back and report back and we discuss them during our instructional coaches meeting and support each other during that time as well.
Finally, how is the district viewing the effectiveness of these tools? In other words, we spent X amount of money to buy them. We need to know whether they work. How are we going to determine that they have utility and have had a meaningful impact on differentiated instruction? Or what does it say? Computer system learning. This is under targeted interventions, says computer system learning. So it fits in under MLSS, as one of the strategies.
Right.
So that's what I see where it fits. But how do we know it's going to work? How do you find out that it's going to work? I'm assuming we're going to spend a little time at mid-year to say, okay, principals, what do you think? What do your teachers say? What do your PLCs say as to the utility of these different technologies that are using to teach the intended curriculum, which all of us we know to be the
Yes, sir. Thank you for your question. The best measure actually is the results we get at the end of the school year, pretty much, of any tool that we use for our students. But Mr. Widener initially helped with that particular thing because he made principals and instructional coaches evaluate every platform that we had, usage-wise, and which they think is working for students. Right, so in one of those meetings, I've met with my instructional coaches and discussed with them tools that we have and what they think is not working. And to tell you the truth, we cut down on some of the things that we have low usage on, and which our instructional coaches and administrators think are not working for students. We are, and we saved some, some funds because of doing that. We pretty much streamlined our resources at this point.
Yeah. Our school day has X number of instructional minutes. And as those of us who have been in the classroom, we know those are precious minutes, and teachers get kind of cranky if we start to have extra stuff that they gotta do. And so they want to be able to sustain that instruction from one day to the next, so that there's no gaps. And so that's what they wanna do. They wanna feel that they're in personal control over what it is that they're gonna do with the kids at the next 20 minutes and 30 minutes. And how does this technology fit into their comfort level about what it is that they're doing? Some teachers say, I don't want any of that, I'm just gonna rely on my own skills. Like and when we were growing up, that's what they did. They used their own selves to figure it out. Now we've got this new technology that's supposed to help improve. Now, it either is going to improve their effectiveness of instruction, or it could improve their efficiency of the use of time. And what he's saying is that sometimes they don't see the return, so they may say, well, we just don't really want to do that. We want to rely on, go back to do something that we want to do. And so that's a legitimate decision on the part of our teachers to say, let's really think through. And actually, school needs to ask, as you said, are we using the instructional time wisely to get where we're supposed to go? Especially since we are a school that has great opportunities for children to learn, and it's really needs to pay off in some way. So that's critical. I'm just making
Comments,
some comments about the concept,
Right.
We get to see this technology used a lot in our younger elementary grades, in our smaller schools where we have some combo classes. You may see a group of first graders sitting together working on their while the teacher is working with the second grade students, or it gives them that small group setting, and again, this gives us another set of data that we've really tried to sync our data to where it's all aligned in the same process. And so we have discovered that iReady is good, and it's along the line of keeping us on that track. So
Just some 2 cents worth, and that's all.
all right, I think we're ready to move on, Mr. Widener.
Yes, ma'am. President Lee,
Thank you, Dr. Martin.
you have presentation F.
Do have presentation F. It will be very brief. No. Yeah, right. I will be giving a brief rundown over our executive sessions. And what I will say is a public body may sometimes need to meet in a special meeting to discuss only a matter that is covered by one of the exceptions defined in section 10-15-1H of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act. Under those limited circumstances, the public body must give notice of the meeting to its members and to the public in accordance with its policy regarding notice of special meetings. We had 2 executive sessions, and the purpose of those special meetings on October 8th, that meeting was discussion of limited personnel matters pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H2 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically for the board to discuss and prepare the superintendent's formative evaluation. The board met for only 20 minutes in executive session that evening. And then the second executive session was on October 29th. That was discussion of limited personnel matters pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H2 of the New Mexico Open Meetings Act, specifically for the board to discuss, prepare, and finalize the superintendent's formative evaluation. And also so that the board can present to and discuss with the superintendent's evaluation and goals for the next evaluation period. That meeting was 2 hours and 50 minutes, and only the items listed were discussed and no action was taken. So Mr. Widener, it's on to you and your report, sir.
Perfect. Dr. Archambault, this superintendent's report will kind of be ongoing for the next few meetings because it's kind of tied together. As a school district, we work very closely with the local tribes, and there are 3 tribes in our area. We work with the Navajos, the Lagunas, and the Acamas. And part of our federal funding requirements, and Mrs. Jones, you can chime in anytime you want to. Part of our federal requirements are that we have to have tribal consultation in the fall and in the spring with our stakeholder groups. And so I did want to let you know that we met with the Department of Diné Education on November 8th. We met with representatives from that group, and we presented our data. We presented information about our school district. We also had 2 representatives from the Pueblo of Acoma there, and the Acoma Department of Education. And so we will be setting a second session with the group from Acoma because we want to present their specific data about our Acoma students. And so that one will be coming up very shortly. And then I had a meeting with the leadership of the Laguna Pueblo 2 weeks ago, and we will be having a presentation with the Laguna Tribal Council next week. And so those tribal consultation meetings are happening, and they are continual. We have to make sure that we're partnering as groups. And so that's part of the requirements that we have the meetings. It ties together with our IPP, which is kind of how we all operate. Mrs. Jones and I went to we've been going to some impact aid meetings, and they told us during the impact aid meetings that you don't always have to renew your IPP if your stakeholders in your groups if they would rather sign a waiver that, hey, this is the way we do things and this is the way we operate. And so that's an option for when we have our meetings with the groups. We don't necessarily have to change our IPP for this year if our tribal leaders agree to that. And so but our IPP is also tied to the IPAC, the parent committee. We hired Mr. Valdo in July. He started in July, and I've talked about having him on the agenda several times as a future agenda item. He has had 4 meetings with our IPAC. And when Mr. Valdo started, our IPAC bylaws are, they're dated. They need updating, they need to be more concise, they need to be more precise and more specific. Part of that is we have an officer team, and it says that our officer team needs to be a parent from the Acoma Pueblo, from the Laguna Pueblo, and a parent from the Navajo Reservation. And so there's talk about that in the bylaws, that our officers are elected for 2 years. And they were elected in November of 2022. And so now we need to elect new officers, and we have to update the bylaws. We have been working a lot with legal counsel and had legal counsel go over our bylaws, and they had a special IPAC meeting, a bylaw meeting scheduled for November 6th. The officers opted to postpone that meeting with the passing of Coach Otero. And so we continue to work. We have another meeting scheduled for the IPAC to update the bylaws and then elect officers, and then hopefully we can keep the leadership team, and I can keep having the tribal consultation meetings and the talks about the IPP and what that looks like for this year. And so it's all relative, but it's also a whole lot of different moving parts. And so just know that we are continuing with the tribal consultation meetings and very much trying to forge those relationships. And I've started sending the newsletter to our stakeholders, so they get it, so they know what's going on in the district as well. And so that's where I'm at with the superintendent's report right now. I can let you know next week more about when we're meeting with Laguna Tribal Council.
Thank you.
You got a date for Acton? Or are you still working on a date?
When
Because you're gonna have to figure out.
the first lieutenant governor was at our council meeting, at our meeting with the Department of Gen Education. And so I talked to him, and he said that he would send us some dates. And so we're hoping that we get
Emails.
something on the books soon.
Emails are occurring.
Yeah.
Very good.
And we're having conversations, face-to-face conversations. Miss Lino has been very involved in helping with Acoma, and so I've included her in my correspondence as well.
Hey, Madam President, for what it's worth, and I was invited to attend the APS travel consultation. That was about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, something like that. Different, because it's like school district, lots of tribes. So they have a unique set of challenges trying to do that. So not every, I can't remember, it's either 100 or 300 different tribes. But we know that the largest is now, then Laguna, then Acoma, and so forth. So they have the same players, in a sense, with some additions like dual singing and so forth. So it's an effort, and for them, they do it in one meeting where they invite them all.
Well, and you know,
FYI. Thank you.
the Department of Tene we talked about that we have a good rapport with the Baca Pruitt chapter. And I talked to them about that you and I had met with Rama a few times last year. And they suggested that we continue to forge relationships with Rama chapter, with the Tohajali chapter, right?
No, Kenyacito.
Kenyacito,
Baca
yes,
Pruitt,
yes.
right?
And so, and so they did sign off that we had the consultation. But they want us to work with our local chapters too, so there's a whole lot of entities that we need to work on forging relationships with.
So,
good.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So are the boards not together because they've had their 2 years are up, so now they're looking for volunteers, or do they appoint people to those seats?
Like I said, our bylaws are kind of, there are some discrepancies in the bylaws. Is that a good way to say it, Mrs. Jones? And so their terms are for 2 years. And so, now, and it's supposed to be.
Those are parents?
They're parents. It's the Indian Parent Advisory Committee. And so it needs to be parents, right? And they have to have children in the district. And, so we've had 3 officers, and
It's time to re-elect.
and now it's time, their terms are up after 2 years.
Very good. Ms. Daly, I see you have a hand up. I'm sorry, Mr.
No, that's, I was
Jaramillo,
just
are you
wondering,
done?
I just was wondering if it was the tribal officials that needed to be filled in, or if it was just volunteers throughout the school or to the parents. That answered my question.
Ms. Daly?
Okay, just a couple of comments. Officially, it's Tohajali. They no longer go by Kenyacito, Dr. Guy. So it's,
We don't even have Tohajali or Kenyacito with us. It's basically Baca Pruitt.
One time in my background, Mrs. Daly, I was a football coach, and we played football against Kenyacito, 6-man football.
Wow.
yes,
Back in the
Yeah.
days.
it's the same, with the smaller schools, they do the 6-man. The other question, or not question, but if you could include me in those tribal consultations with Laguna, preferably on a Friday, because I'm off on Fridays. And this coming year is an election year for new officials. So we might be getting a new governor, or it might be the same one, he's been renominated. So we'll be getting a new leadership circle, I guess you might call it. And then I think council, the 6 villages will have one council person remain, and then they'll elect another new one. So that's just to give you a heads up on.
I will definitely keep you informed, Mrs. Daly, on what's going on with Laguna. Governor Herrera right now is, he's very collaborative, but also being very scriptive about, hey, I need you to come. And like when I met with him 2 weeks ago, his assistant called and said, hey, we need you to come meet with the governor tomorrow. And so I went over there, and it was a really good conversation with the governor and I, but he, and so today I got an email, hey, we need you to come talk to tribal council. And so I responded, well, can I bring my team with me? And, cause he was asking a lot of good questions about like what our DLPs look like and what our data looks like. And so he kind of sent me a list of things he would like to see. So, but I will let you know as soon as I get a date, and I would love to shoot for a Friday, for maybe like next Friday.
Well, I know that council meetings are usually held on Friday, the full
Perfect.
council. And then
I
staff,
imagine it'll be on a Friday then.
Neat.
and then staff officer meeting, that's just the governor and his, the elected, officials. I think they meet on Thursdays. So, just to be aware of, letting me know.
I will let you, and I promise, Mrs. Daly, I will text message you too, so you'll
Okay.
know.
And then I'm trying to work with Laguna Tribal Police to get a police report. They don't seem to be very cooperative. They said, well, no crime was committed if you lost it. And I said,
The
well,
phone, her
I-
phone,
The phone,
her phone.
yeah.
okay.
So I'm trying to work with them to get them to issue me one so that I can get another board phone. Never did find the other one, so. But like they said, it's not a
Thank you for
crime.
that. Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
Mrs.
that
Daly.
update. Mr. Widener,
All right, that takes us
action?
to our two action items.
Two.
Action item A is the iReady, the purchase of the iReady platform that Dr. Martin just talked about. The amount is $71,261.
Correct.
Exactly that,
So, board members that are here, in your packet, right after the iReady presentation is actually this form.
I'm planning to kill less trees.
Perfect. Perfect. So Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation for approval of the renewal of iReady in the amount of $71,261.00?
I recommend that we do approve.
Wonderful, thank you. Board members, is there a motion to approve the renewal of iReady in the amount of $71,261?
So move.
Thank you, Emily. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Ms. Hunt Daly and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to approve the renewal of iReady in the amount of $71,261. Board members, is there any discussion?
Just one question to Dr. Martin. Since we use that and the MLSS platform, give me an idea of which you find more usable in our classrooms and elementary wise and high school wise.
Is it better, Ms. Hunt Daly, are you asking because MLSS is a process, not a platform. iReady is the platform, so MLSS is what is being utilized throughout the district, but then iReady is the platform that we have just gotten more information about. So can you get a more specific question?
Yes, I just I understood that it's a program that we utilize, but do we utilize it at mostly elementary, middle school, or high school? And
Ms. Daly,
Yes.
iReady is being utilized mostly in the elementary level. At the secondary level, we rely mostly on FRECO and our STAR assessments to diagnose students' learning. Did I answer your question, ma'am?
yes, I just wonder that the high school levels, I know how important it is to assess these at the middle elementary levels so that they don't move on be needy in high school. But is there a program like similar to iReady that would be more substantially used at the high school level?
At the high school level?
Yes.
Right now, ma'am, the only program we're using is actually Renaissance platform. So
Okay.
we do not purchase for them. Renaissance, Freckle, Star Math is something that they vetted. we don't want to buy something for them as a district and them not use it. We get we actually get their feedback and it's, we pretty much consider what we buy based on teacher, administrator, and the school's feedback on particular platforms. And at this time, it's Freckle and Star Math that they actually recommended for the district to purchase for them.
I know at one point in time we used Read 180, but I don't know if that's still a viable solution for high school. I know it works at the middle school and elementary level, but thank you. I just would like to, after the end of this year, and you to do the assessment to form some opinion on which platform or which package that you use more or that teachers use with more fidelity than trying to throw a lot of programs at them to single out which one is actually working for our students. Okay, thank you.
And interestingly, Mrs. Daly, one topic you guys are gonna hear a lot about in the next coming months when you go to workshops and trainings, lots of talk about artificial intelligence. And our secondary schools are asking for help with AI. And how do we know if a student plagiarized? How do we know if a student really wrote a document? And so today we were vetting some different programs that look at AI and help our schools with AI. And so that one will be coming up at the high school level.
That's interesting, Mr. Widener, because
Okay, hold on, time out. Mr. Widener took you in a direction we shouldn't go right now.
okay.
And I'm gonna scold our employee for going off track here. So is there any further discussion about our action item?
Call.
Okay, so Mrs. Sandoval, roll call vote, please.
Dr. Shambo?
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly?
Yes,
Mr. Jaramillo?
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mrs. Lee?
Aye, motion carries. Sorry, Mr. Widener.
Not a problem.
Our next item, Mr. Widener.
Mr. Gonzalez, are you excited? Let me talk about this, okay? As you know, we have a board policy that any donations that come to the schools have to come through the school board. Mr. Gonzalez has been selected for a tribal agriculture fellowship donation to send him to the National Association of Agriculture Educators Conference. It's a donation in the amount of $2,432.41. And I do recommend that we approve this. Mr. Gonzalez, would you like to say anything?
Sure. Alright, Mr. Superintendent, members of the board, I probably spend more time at this podium than I do in my own classroom at this point. But my name is Amador Gonzalez. I am the agriculture teacher and FFA advisor at Grants High School. And this donation is coming from the Tribal Agricultural Fellowship, which is a program that focuses on promoting agricultural education, and advancements in agriculture with youth and various individuals from Native American communities. Because I teach in predominantly Native American location, I have been selected by the organization to receive this donation to attend the National Association of Agricultural Educators Conference in San Antonio next month. This conference is actually in conjunction with ACTE Vision, which many individuals in this room I have attended with in the past. So this conference will allow me to attend various professional development workshops related to fundraising, classroom management, new innovations in agriculture, as well as the opportunity to meet with individuals, including the National FFA Advisor, regarding the recent changes to ACDE's career clusters and how it impacts agricultural education. So lots of exciting opportunities take place at the conference, and in addition, the continued work I do with the Tribal Agriculture Fellowship is impacting my students. They have assisted as far as travel for various events we've attended in the past, as well as offering scholarships for my students to attend the FFA Leadership Conference in Washington, DC annually. So this is a great fellowship program that I am part of, and I'm excited to bring what I take back from San Antonio and apply it in the classroom.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation for
I
approval?
recommend that we accept.
Wonderful. So, board members, is there a motion to approve a donation from Tribal Agriculture Fellowship for the National Association Agriculture Educators Conference for Mr. Gonzalez to attend in San Antonio, Texas on December 3rd through the 7th, 2024. The donation is for up to the amount of $2,432.41 for flights, hotel, and conference registration.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Daly. And is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Ortiz. It has been moved by Ms. Hunt Daly and seconded by Mr. Ortiz to approve the donation from Tribal Agriculture Fellowship for the National Association Agriculture Educators Conference for Mr. Gonzalez to attend in San Antonio, Texas, December 3rd through 7th, for the donation in the amount of up to $2,432.41. Is there any discussion?
I just, Madam President, I just have one comment for Mr. Gonzalez. At one point in time, Ms. Shaye Lucero did a study of medicinal plants in the two pueblos, and a lot of those cures, I don't know if you call them remedies or cures, are still being used today. And so her name is Shaye Lucero. She might be a resource for you, Mr. Gonzalez. Perhaps that could be some of the plants that would be studied and refurbished into the interest of our tribal communities.
Thank you for that, Ms. Daly. I would encourage you to email Mr. Gonzalez that contact information so that he could further look into that. Board
I
members,
sure
is
will.
there-
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
I probably want to encourage, I'm just gonna make humorous comments.
You might get in trouble.
That, one of the things that both tribes do, particularly Acoma, is we with respect to farming, acequias, acequias. And every year, particularly the Pueblo, Acoma Pueblo have ditch cleaning.
That would be a great community service opportunity.
For our FFA kids.
Yes, absolutely.
Sekia project.
Flathead, not a pointy. You might, Dr. Archambault, I might, yeah. I might encourage you to send an email also to Mr. Gonzalez when the opportunity would arise for that to happen, because that could be an amazing thing for our students.
Acoma students participate.
Yeah.
At the startup of the irrigation.
The president of the FFA chapter is an Acoma student, correct?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, board members, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, please.
Yes.
Dr. Archambault, Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. Next, we have our consent agenda for the bills and expenditures report for October 2024, and one bar for the increase of Title I, Part A, ESEA. Superintendent Widener, is there a recommendation for approval of the consent agenda as listed, including the bills and expenditure report for 2024 and the single bar listed?
I recommend that we approve the consent agenda, bills and expenditures for October, and increasing the bar for Title I.
Thank you. Board members, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And a second?
he's gonna, I made the motion, he's gonna second it.
Okay.
Because I haven't done it tonight.
Did you get that, Lorraine?
Whoa, got it.
That is fine.
All right, it has been moved by Dr. Ashambo and seconded by Mr. Ortiz to approve the consent agenda as listed, including the bills and expenditures report for October 2024 and the bar. We shall proceed to a roll call vote. Mr. Jones, would you grab Mr. Jaramillo so that he could vote, please? Thank you, sir. I think he went to cough, is what he said.
I think he went outside.
Did he go all the way out?
You went down the road.
Oh, no, he's down. He's down the hall.
I thought he was just,
Sorry.
Don't mind the sergeant.
no, you're fine, sir.
Yeah, the sergeant.
So we're gonna roll call vote. Mrs. Sandoval, consent agenda, sir. Mr.
It was making my eyes burn or something.
What? Yes.
I know, maybe the heater, I don't know.
Mrs. Daly,
Not on.
Yes,
Crazy.
Mr. Jaramillo,
Yes.
Mr. Ortiz,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Aye, motion carries. Announcements, and Mr. Weiner, if I may add one, even though our FFA leader left, tomorrow
Last day.
is Ag Explore Day for the district. And it will be in the old gym at Grants High School. And I believe it starts at 8:30 in the morning and goes to about 2:30. And we have FFA, 4-H, GHS, and early college students that are all doing various presentations of different aspects of agriculture in our community. And so it's open to anybody who would like to come and see what the kids are doing. And Mr. Widener, what are the grades that we have attending?
Second grade and sixth grade.
Second
And
and
we bring them
sixth.
from all schools.
Is that the one they used to do at the Cow Palace or something?
They used to
It
do it at
used to
that,
be.
or at the rodeo grounds.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly, it used to be out there. So all of the elementary schools, second and sixth grade come for those presentations. So, sorry I jumped in on that one.
That's fine. Well, and I actually wanna clarify, you guys were probably thinking that we were jerks, cause we didn't invite you to the Blue Water ribbon cutting. After we formulated the agenda, PSFA stepped in and told us, no, we have to schedule the ribbon cutting. And so we were anticipating having a ribbon cutting yesterday at Blue Water. That didn't happen. And we did have the Veterans Day recognitions and they were wonderful. And I'll be sharing I'll be sharing pictures of that. But we did have the Veterans Day celebrations. So really, there's only two announcements. We have another school board meeting next Tuesday. And then we will have the school district will close November 25th through 29th for the Thanksgiving break holiday.
The whole week, you know?
Yep,
That's
the
a whole week.
whole week.
Yes, sir. And then we can move to future agenda items. As I mentioned in my superintendent's report, there are certain topics that will be coming back because you guys need to be updated on them. Definitely IPAC, the bylaws, the officer presentation.
RFP.
I'll keep you
and-
informed about the tribal consultations and the items that we postponed tonight will be on future agendas as well. And Lorraine and I want to make sure that that you guys are part of the student disciplinary handbook. And we're working with the assistant principals and principals to make sure that that is sound across the district, so. Those will all be coming up on next week's agenda.
Very good. Superintendent Weiner, is there a recommendation?
I recommend that we adjourn.
Thank you. I appreciate that recommendation. Is there a motion to adjourn our meeting as amended?
Allergies.
Thank you. And is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Mr. Ortiz and seconded by Mr. Jaramillo to adjourn the meeting as amended. Mrs. Sandoval, roll call please.
Yes.
Mrs. Hunt Daly,
Mrs. Daly?
Yes. I said yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Jaramillo,
And yes.
Mr. Ortiz. Yes. Mrs. Lee.
Aye, the motion carries. We adjourned at 7:33 PM. Thank you very much, everyone, for a great productive